The Scottish Government has been warned it will hemorrhage new Scots if it does not take further action to protect EU citizens after Brexit, a campaigner has warned. Earlier this week a Home Office minister said EU nationals may be deported if they do not sign up for settled status by the end of 2020 deadline. There is concern over the impact this could have in Scotland, where more than half of EU nationals have not signed up to the scheme, according to new figures from campaign group The Million. Across the rest of the UK, about 2/3 of EU nationals have done so. Ellen Hofer, Creative Director of EU Citizens for an Independent Scotland, warned the Scottish Government's warm words may have lulled new Scots into a false sense of security. She told the National that without decisive steps EU citizens would continue to leave Scotland. She went on, "The problem is that if the Scottish Government decides to just continue to provide a positive narrative instead of taking constructive steps to really interfere and find ways of supporting EU citizens in Scotland beyond advising them to apply for settled status, which every SNP representative describes as reprehensible, then we are not going to get anywhere. There's people who have left Scotland who are in a much worse situation just because they weren't able to take the uncertainty." Hofer, originally from Germany, said she has been in contact with the government multiple times with ways to push forward changes. Her suggestions, all of which she says can be done without the devolution of immigration, include the launch of a working group focused on providing the same level of protection to all residents, a voluntary Scottish residency card scheme and the implementation of a hotline to help EU nationals faced with discrimination. Now with just a few weeks until the Brexit deadline, Hofer urged Scotland to avoid the bitter loss of large numbers of new Scots. "I think this is an opportunity for the SNP, for the Scottish Government in general," she said. "I think it's really hard to understand why they would miss the opportunity to strengthen the bond of friendship across Europe by actually protecting their citizens here. What more could you be wanting in terms of international recognition for the cause that the SNP and the Scottish Government is driving for? I have been really quite shocked because I'm a clear supporter of independence and I'm not here to make any trouble. I wish I wasn't doing the job that I'm doing at the minute. I think it's down to the positive work of the Scottish Government, who are very welcoming and inclusive, continue to repeat that we're valued and welcome, and also EU citizens have got much more clued up about the political landscape since the first Indie Ref. More articles. And because of that everybody expects Scotland to make an actual move on independence. It just doesn't look like that is going to happen, given that the SNP currently doesn't have a white paper to campaign on because they've just recommissioned and announced one in September, a new one to follow up the Growth Commission. So unless Scotland actually decides to make concrete steps that protect EU citizens, all the warm words are for nothing. Hofer, who is originally from Germany, has warned that Scotland will continue to hemorrhage its new Scots because of increasing discrimination or the UK's hostile environment policy if decisive steps are not taken as soon as possible. Yesterday, Constitutional Relations Secretary Mike Russell tweeted in response to Home Office Minister Brandon Lewis's claim that EU citizens could be deported if they do not apply for settled status by its deadline. He wrote, "Yesterday Brandon Lewis was tweeting that he wanted our #e.u. friends, family and neighbors to stay. Today he is threatening to deport them. Well, he won't be doing that from Scotland." Hofer said the post shows why the Scottish Government should go further in its efforts to help EU citizens. That to me, from a government minister, sounds like a promise. And I don't understand how that kind of thing cannot be followed up by actual policy changes that go beyond settled status advice.